the capacity of the facility to unload barges. The facility only has the capacity to allow the unloading of one barge at a time. You're just not physically capable of unloading more than one barge at a time. And the highest volume material that would be used would be potentially grain or construction materials. And the facility just doesn't have the capacity to unload any more than 2 barges per day, which is the same volume of material that would be used with respect to the dredge material unloading. So regardless of what product is coming across the port, there would be 2 barges per day maximum, which also equates to 100 trucks per day. So the impact as far as the barge traffic or the truck traffic, which is really the only difference related to other products, would be the same impacts as dredge material. There's restriction on storage of materials on site, and there just isn't any room on the site for any other operations to happen. And we have the restriction in the agreement. So that's how we addressed that concern. They're also concerned about future development adjacent to the barge terminal. So the barge terminal has a limited footprint as shown on this figure here, kind of the purple outline. That's the actual footprint of the barge facility. But the 2 parcels that are adjacent, that the barge terminal sits on and are adjacent to it, once the property transaction takes place and the easement is acquired, they were also rezoned to industrial use in accordance with the city's future land use plan and comprehensive plan. So there was concern about, well, what does that mean related to what development might take place on that adjacent property? And the DNR has a term called cumulative impact and connected and phased action. And those are terms that mean if you have knowledge of a expansion of a facility or adjacent development that is known to be happening in the future, you have to consider the combined environmental impacts of that future development. Well, the only way you can consider that is if there is actually a plan or a proposal for development on that property that has been submitted to the city. City hasn't received any proposals. The city has no plans. There have been no proposals or plans submitted for development adjacent to the port facility. There are no plans to expand the facility. Any future development would need to meet zoning requirements in the city's ordinance. It would need to obtain any other permits that would be required based on the type of development, and they would need to conform to comply with any state or federal laws that exist. So any future development would have to comply with all regulations and address any environmental impacts that would happen as a result of that development at the time it's proposed. There's really no way for us to evaluate cumulative impact of something that doesn't exist yet. So that's how we addressed that. Yes, sir.
So I've got a question. So in the EIS, it talks about 8.2 acres for the site. Then it also talks about 26.8 acres for a larger area. And does that larger area include it's kind of a flat field that's just north of the actual barge area?
No, the area that the 28 acres is talking about is the 2 parcels that the barge terminal would sit on. So in the EIS, the area that was evaluated as a part of the environmental impact statement is this black boundary, which are the 2 parcels of record. The 8.2 acres is the magenta, or kind of the pink or purple outline here. So that's why the 2 different acreages.
So who owns that area in black, or who's going to own it?
Owners would continue to own the remaining land outside of the purple area that the city would acquire, either by fee title or by easement.
Brian, weren't we possibly buying a little more than that because of the wetland issue?
That was the wetland area towards the west.
Yeah, to address to address the impervious surface requirement. So, but it's all wetland area and can't be developed. So
yeah. Okay.
So the other concern was recreational use impacts in the channel. We addressed that issue by pointing out that there would be 2 barges per day in the channel. There would be no restrictions on recreational use of the channel, and there should be minimal impact to recreational use. There would be no restriction from anybody that's currently kayaking or canoeing or fishing in that area. Obviously, the barges would be moving in and out 2 per day, but there are barges. Core reports that there's on average 5 barges per day on the main channel. So recreational users on the river are used to dealing with barge traffic on occasion on the river. Shouldn't be any new issue or impact to deal with. The other issue was just the alternatives analysis. So there were some specific things they wanted added to our alternatives analysis. This map here shows we were required to look at alternative sites as well as alternative scale and magnitude of the project. So we added some additional information related to both of those things, and then added some additional environmental analysis for each of the alternative sites and the scale and magnitude to address some of the DNR comments there, which is specifically required and will be required as a part of the permit, work in public waters permit for the project. So it should translate directly to the permit application. So in addition to those main concerns, the final EIS, through the draft process, we received 118 comments in total. So in the final EIS document, there's Appendix P, which is a comment and response document. And so every single comment that was received as a part of the process is listed there. And this is a clip from one of them. So this was comment 116 from the DNR, a direct copy paste of their comment, and then what our response was to that comment, and then where in the final EIS that particular issue was addressed and what page numbers it's in the EIS. So anybody that submitted a comment could go to this document and find how their comment was addressed and where it was addressed in the EIS. In some cases, there was alternative language or modification to the language in the EIS to address it. In other cases, it was simply referring them to specific sections of the EIS where it was already addressed. So this is a summary of those sections in the EIS that were addressed or modified to address certain comments. So if you're interested, this would be the listing of the figures or the paragraphs or tables in the EIS where changes were made between the draft and the final EIS in response to comments. Not every comment required a change to the language. Some of it, again, was just answering the question in the comment response document and referring to the EIS section where it was already addressed. From a timeline standpoint, we're here today at the Port Authority meeting where we'd be asking you to provide approval of the final EIS, state EIS, and then the draft federal EA. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Should you provide that approval, the final EIS would be submitted and the draft federal EA would be submitted on August 27th. There's a final review period for the state EIS, which would run from September 3rd to the 13th. And then we would come back to you at your September 17th meeting for you to consider issuing a final EIS notice of adequacy, which ends the environmental review process. Then the federal EA would continue on with agency coordination between September and November. We would come back to you, assuming everything goes okay with that in December. Don't talk much in detail about the federal EA because it's basically a mirror of the state EIS. There really isn't anything in the federal EA that isn't addressed in the state EIS. It's basically just a different format and a separate communication process with some of the agencies. In the case of the state EIS, the Port Authority, you are the responsible governmental unit that is making the decision on the EIS. In the federal process, MARAD, the Maritime Administration, is actually the responsible government that basically makes the final decision, but you are responsible for preparing the document and submitting it to them. But they ultimately are the agency that makes the final decision. So should we continue to proceed here, the plan would be to work on final design for the port facility itself between September and February. Permitting on the best case scenario between September and May. That receiving permits is critical to the schedule here. It's on the critical path. We need permits approved prior to beginning construction. The tree removal on the site is a specific issue. That's a timing issue. Because of the northern long-eared bat endangered species issue, we are restricted from removing trees. They have to be completed prior to the end of March. You can only remove trees in the winter time due to that issue. So if we aren't able to proceed prior to the end of March with permits, basically that would shift construction to the next year, because we'd have to wait until the next winter to remove trees. Then we would, so we do a separate contract for that just to get the trees removed so we can meet that March deadline. And then proceed with a contract for the site work, the dock and the dredging in June. And then hopefully have construction going July to November 2025 next year. So tonight, the requested action is for you to approve the final EIS and the draft federal EA for submittal. And the next steps for you would be back next in September, that notice of adequacy. And then we're anticipating 1 or 2 rounds of comments on the federal EA. But again, every agency that will be reviewing the federal EA has already reviewed the state EIS, and all the issues are the same. So there really shouldn't be anything new that comes up in that whole process. So that's Angie Smith wasn't able to be here tonight. I should have mentioned that at the start. She's really the lead and the brain behind this. I'm a participant. So I'll answer any questions I can answer. Hopefully I can answer all of them. If there isn't something, I can get with Angie and get an answer to you if I can't answer it.
Any questions? We've been through this a bunch of times.
Well, I just wanted to comment that I think their approach to addressing 116 comments was extremely thorough. So I appreciate that, because I know that took some extra effort to draw people to where it was addressed in the notes and figures, but hopefully that'll set us up for success with anyone saying that their comment wasn't addressed. So good job there. I'm sure that was extremely time consuming, but hopefully going to be pay off in the end as we go through the permitting process.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Brian.
Nope, I just said thank you.
Oh, yeah. And be sure to thank Angie as well.
Will do. I definitely will.
Yeah, she's big help. So we have it before us. We need to approve the EIS, as we're the responsible entity.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
We got a motion for second. Got a second, first and a second. Any further discussion? After all this time? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Fantastic. That's a big deal.
Thank
How
you.
long is it in the making?
Oh, man.
I don't even want to think about it, Craig.
Yeah, I didn't, make your toes curl. All right. Approval for the draft federal EA for submittal to MIRAD, initial review. So we need to do this additionally, don't we, Brian?
Yes.
So that's the next item on our agenda.
I'll make a motion.
We got a motion, we got a second?
Second.
Give it to Mary.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Both same sign. There you go. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Brian, I want you to leave, but would the chair be opposed if we took the item on the MnDOT TED funds now,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he can be here, and then Brian, then you can sign off. Unless you think you should be here for any other items, but I don't think so.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's item number 6 in our new business. Go ahead, Caroline. We'll talk
Okay.
about this.
So, we had submitted a letter of interest, back in July, and then I never heard anything back, so I wasn't paying attention to the deadline because I thought we'd get a up or down response from MnDOT and then move forward. But Ashley, who's been advising us from Bolton and Mink, kind of noted that that deadline was coming up September 8th, so I reached out to MnDOT and they said to proceed with the full application and work with Kurt and with MnDOT Region 6. I'm still waiting to get together with him, so I sent him a little reminder, but as a group, we met this morning. I went ahead and applied for $5,000 in grant navigator assistance, from League of Minnesota Cities, and then council's gonna approve a resolution on that. I think the way we outline the work, Bolton and Mink will be helping us with the transportation information and asking Christy to help us maybe engage some potential people. And then Dusty's gonna talk to a few people, Kathy, Will, and Tyler and I. But the biggest challenge I was brainstorming with the mayor and others today is kind of associating some job creation or retention associated with the new highway reroute. So we have some ideas, but they all require that we reach out. So I was kind of gonna check from this group. If you could foresee any potential beneficiaries of the project that could associate job retention or creation with getting the highway rerouted and then the associated future housing and commercial. What Emily and I discussed is we really don't know what the commercial will be, if at all. But the reason why Ashley recommended it is it's a grant that sometimes leaves funds on the table, but you still have to find a couple connections. So Brian, you want to add to that at all? I know you're not necessarily the expert on this grant either.
Yeah, I think just the challenge with this one is gonna be finding some of those support letters, those businesses that are willing to help us fill out that economic impact table. So, but it is encouraging that MnDOT looked at the project and recommended going forward with it. I mean, they have an eye for the types of projects that typically receive grant funding for this. This is a unique one. Typically you would see something more with a specific business identified or industrial park or something like that. So it was encouraging to see that they recommended proceeding. They understand that it's an effort for cities to spend money on these applications, and they don't typically recommend moving forward if they don't think you have a competitive project. So yeah, we'll dig in and work with CETA and city staff to try to identify as many businesses as we can.
And so we're gonna reconvene next Tuesday, and I think I'll make one final executive decision. We're making a lot of phone calls. If we can't find anyone to say, I might create or retain a job as a result of the project, we still may wanna say, I don't know, but we've got some potential leads, I think, that,
You mentioned Quick Trip.
Yeah.
Is that one of them?
yep, that would be one of them that we're gonna reach
What
out
about
to.
like California overlands?
We reached out to them today. Dusty, do you wanna share what you learned there?
Sure. So they definitely would support the project with a letter of support. They don't foresee any job increase over the next 5 years as their staff is full now. That project to them wouldn't really impact their business, but they will support the city with a letter of support however they can. and job
So it
data
would be
too.
Permanent jobs, so like the construction, if you build apartments there, so
Yeah, I
the
don't think
construction.
But it seems like it'd be this would support retention at them. Well,
Yes,
what
that's-
employees is retention.
Yep, so that's a big thing with California Overland. I think the approach for them would be the retention piece instead of the expansion piece.
So you can claim job retention, so,
Well,
Yeah.
so then we got Wabasha Sand and Gravel. They come over that all the time.
okay, they're on my list, I'm in charge of them, so. I will give them a call too, I mean, that's on our list, so that's good, that
So-
makes sense.
We're doing our best. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, we're doing our best too to identify. It doesn't necessarily have to be businesses right in Wabasha either. It can be regional businesses that use the river crossing for their business. So like we talked about, Plainview Milk Products, Lakeside Foods, basically adjacent, agricultural businesses that, grain elevators or things like that. So
Contact Gherkins.
Even Walmart, I mean, Walmart.
Menards is from right there.
Menards.
That's the main
All
road,
the time.
Menards.
Mhm.
So Tyler's brother works at Menards, so he's gonna see,
That's all
yeah,
we
some
need.
of the corporate connections
Phone
are
numbers, all
tough. Tyler, does anyone else have a connect? I don't have any Menards connections. Yeah.
Well, they talk, there's some type of a business corridor from Eau Claire to Rochester. And the first thing that comes to mind is Mayo Clinic, so they got a hospital in Eau Claire, and they got the Rochester campus, so. There's all kinds of things like that are going back and forth.
Mhm.
I did, I sent an email to our contact that I have at the DMC EDA and kind of made a pitch to them if they could at least provide a letter of support, considering that, a safe and efficient regional transportation system is key to the DMC effort, and that, regional housing efforts are important to their, staffing and jobs at Mayo and the DMC initiative. So I'm hopeful that we'll get some kind of response from them, from the DMC EDA, which would be fantastic if we could, but we'll see where that goes.
Power bill, Duran.
Okay. So, yeah, I think where we were discussing a little bit is just to really say, we're gonna create a job on a technical way. We almost brainstorm Dick's Fresh Market or a Cat and Coffee as being a potential, I'll build there and hire some new people. So those were a couple other leads, and then Gherkins for sure, so. We will
Okay.
see, but Ashley, his colleague, seemed comfortable with that you could describe this, we could hopefully identify some places, but I guess I would say, come up with nothing. I don't know that we would score without having something at the end of the day in those categories, but I think we'll be able to hopefully make this cost efficient by all of us kind of participating in some of these calls, so. On this one, I think I was just asking for up to $10,000. But I think it should be, I think it should be in that $5,000 mark, just how we divided everything up, but. I'm just trying to get through our budget season right now, and then, like I said, I'm gonna help with calls and stuff, so Brian, do you think that sounds? Based on our meeting today, sounds about right?
Yep.
Yeah, so. So just looking for approval there.
Any questions or discussion with respect to this? I think it's, it's one of those things when they come back and say, you should apply, it's kind of the big signal that we're on that right path. So, and I support this, obviously. So we need a motion to approve up to $10,000 to apply for this Minnesota DOT TED grant.
I'll make a
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion with respect to this? Then we've heard Caroline say if there's some trepidation prior to submitting it, we'll talk about it, but
I'll send everyone an email, but
yeah.
I
can't
trust
imagine
Ashley
that
and
would-
Brian to know, so I think when we regroup next Tuesday, we're gonna say, hey, here's all my calls on, here's what I learned, so.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. There you go. Thank you again,
Thanks,
Brian.
Brian.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is item 3, is action on launch of the facade program. And request to city council utilize TIF funds to support the project. This is Dusty, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain
Tee it
the
up.
financial part, and then Dusty, you can walk us through the guidelines, does that sound good?
Sure.
And Tyler, just jump in if I miss anything, but, basically, we have a TIF that's closing out. And, we have some funding that will get sent back to the city when the TIF gets closed out, ranging between $15,000 and $20,000. The maximum amount, what might be 21,000. So I was trying to help Dusty identify a non-levy, source, and so we came up with this, and the challenge might be that if council isn't supportive of this program, it would just be money that goes back into our general fund. And Tyler and I would say just put it in, our balance, but I do think this might be a good way to launch the program. And the question is, and then Dusty, I think, can talk more, but it's definitely, we know that businesses need help with the exterior. The question that I had was, do you support us going to council for this request in September? And then did you support the program guidelines? I had just suggested that we make vacant buildings ineligible and anything that's being used for a residential purpose. And so that would be in the final guidelines. And then just on the grant amount, does 500 to 2,500 sound adequate? Dusty has used those amounts in other communities.
They
And
seem light to me.
yeah, seems small, okay. We can have a discussion on that. And then do you want to only have it be available for businesses that pay property taxes? In Dusty's experience, it is also available to nonprofits, so. Dusty, anything to add with, kind of why you encouraged us to consider the program or anything in the guidelines we should know?
So we've kind of already went over the guidelines, but 500 to 2,500, it's a match, so it's 50-50. If a business spends $1,000 on new signage, the port would give them 500 back. It's reimbursable. I think it's very important because it's very successful in my other small rural communities. It helps small businesses get small signage, work on the outside of their building. And what you'll see once you implement this is that it's a trickle effect. Everyone, the first application will go down range, someone will improve the outside of their building, and then 2 or 3, 4 will come next. And so it just makes your city business buildings look nice with new signage. And it's a grant. Businesses are looking for small grants. I know they're small, but keeping them 500 to 2,500 helps the pot a little bit and can help out more businesses than just a few if you increase it. But that's just my opinion. It's not a loan.
So I'm thinking if you're putting in new windows or anything like that, or if you're tuck pointing or anything, you know, Broken Paddle just did $3,500 of work.
Carries about this big. Well, that much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not big, so you don't get much.
signage is 3,000 on our storefront. So we have some people that have reached out to Main Street and they need bricks and mortar, they need wrought iron stairwells, and their projects are 30 to 50,000. So I mean,
Okay.
how do you use this and then just find money elsewhere? Then I mean, like they would definitely apply for 5, so they could spend 10. Then they had to come up with like 20 more. So you could.
Right now it's at 2,500, so we have to
It
change.
says 5,000 for historic buildings. And that's the entire
I
downtown.
think I missed that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so now we can do $10,000 projects and.
For
get
historic.
higher. Yeah, all of the buildings downtown are historic, so.
Okay,
I think
sorry, I missed that. Thanks.
they are
Yeah.
all historic.
Okay,
That essentially would be 4 buildings. That's it.
And there's at least 4 buildings that have reached out.
But I'm
Well,
thinking
they're
if
gonna
it's,
make application, they have to have the match.
yeah, I think if it's a little less, maybe we'll get more people investing. More people investing in their facades.
and that's my experience. However, Wabasha does have unique buildings, I suppose, compared to Lewiston and Goodview, more historic buildings. So maybe you could increase it to match, Wabasha. But in my experience, I mean, it kind of just makes, like I said, a trickle down effect. Everyone, $500 is $500, or $2,500 back is big because it's a grant. It's not a loan. So it's up to you.
Any thoughts?
I see that.
Any thoughts on the program? Start with
Yeah, it's a
that.
great program to start some economic development downtown, especially with a grant that matches. I just see it like some larger projects, maybe smaller, larger, because 500 doesn't buy a window, and you need, like, people are doing awnings, those are 3,000 and 4,000. So I see people maybe doing updated awnings, or maybe one window or a door. But yeah, it's something, there's nothing for 500 anymore.
Well, I mean, that'd be 1,000.
Sure, oh, yeah, I see that.
I guess, and the thing too is that if I can get a door covered, then maybe I can cover the
Something
window.
else,
Or
yeah,
if I get a door covered, maybe I can cover the awning,
sure, okay, I see what you mean.
And it's more than just downtown businesses. It's all of your small businesses in the city of Wabasha.
Mhm.
And that is an important point, that for historic, which a lot will qualify for, then it could be a $10,000 project. With half being 5,000, so I missed that, but. No,
That's good, because windows are expensive.
all right, so if you approve it, our next steps would be to take it to council, kind of explain. Or I think what we're gonna suggest to the council is, we know the money's coming, it might not technically reach our bank accounts till December. But let's get the commitment to use those funds, and then we can start advertising the program, because we won't need cash available, we assume, till next spring, but certainly not before December. So we can. get
So we
it
have
going.
21,000, is that what?
well,
We don't know, anywhere from 15,000 to 21,000, but I think what we do in the action item is just commit any. Funds going back from the closeout to the TIF to be directed to that project, and we'll offer council a range, and we can report on the final amount too in December.
thoughts?
Why couldn't we just put that money back in the general fund and keep our levy down?
We could, yes, I noted that on the agenda, we can put it. And just use it to lower the levy, I mean. Again, in my opinion, it's kind of a one-time thing, so you obviously lower it for this year, but then. If you're offsetting general operating revenues, that levy would go up, next year, but. That is why I put it. I think it'll be this group endorsing it, but then. I wasn't planning on bringing it up at the budget workshop, but it certainly might come up at council, so.
Well, so I'm inclined to think this is a good idea. $20,000, $15,000 is not gonna change a one-time hit to our budget of that infusion. But what it could do for our goals are leaning forward to continue to help improve buildings and businesses downtown or across the city. It makes sense. So it's almost like, we would recommend that this be the project for those funds. It's up to council to decide if they want to put it toward the levy or if they want to support this project. So that's where I'm at with it. Any further thoughts? Otherwise, entertain a motion to, and, oh, I guess too, I guess one of the other concerns is that broad impact, right? So, you know, four properties pulling 5,000 or 3 properties pulling 15,000 in total, then the deal's done, we're done.
Mhm.
Or if we keep it all at, you know, max of 2,500, then we can get quite a few properties where that opportunity is there, and we can revisit if we.
You get 5 paid for 2,500.
Well, I mean, but that's, start somebody paying, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I think
and
every
I think
little bit
it's-
helps. So it'd have to be, you know, a $5,000 project for the business that would get 2,500 back.
What John is saying, because the guidelines say for historic buildings, 5,000, and I don't know if that was accidentally included or you wrote that.
We talked about
Okay.
historic buildings at some point because
Okay.
Wabasha has so many.
Okay, but what John is saying is if we kept that clause in it, then you could exhaust the funds in 3 projects. So if I understand correctly, you're asking, should we amend it to remove that for historic
Right.
and keep the cap at 2,500, so.
Okay.
Oh, remove the 5,000 for historic?
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that. I think that's gonna kill a lot of projects downtown. No one's gonna do much for 2,500 downtown.
Well, it's 5,000.
it's 5,000.
It's
I
5,000.
mean, they gotta put up $2,500. Let them
Yeah,
pay
so I mean,
something.
Still,
that's-
5,000 is not a whole lot.
Well, how much you wanna give them? Yeah.
Well, see, I guess I look at
If
it.
you're gonna do it.
Right, but, okay, so Mary wants to put a new sign up, right? You know, she can put a sign up for $3,000, so she's gonna ask for 1,500. Anderson House is gonna wanna put an awning up, that's gonna be 5,000, so they're gonna pull 2,500. Anderson House asks for, they're gonna put new windows on the main level, so that's 5,000 gone. Somebody else wants to put something in $10,000, so it's 5,000. My thing is that if everybody gets a little bit, then we pretty up downtown or across the community more than 3 buildings or 4 buildings.
I think it gives more than just downtown businesses a chance.
Yeah.
It's
And
a first come, first served basis, so.
You have to have the match too.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you
you
have to have
have
a project
to,
in the
yeah, you
works.
have to have a match. I also asked Dusty, and I think it may have been added, but just that we give people a time frame to expend the funds, and then if they don't, it gets sent back.
return back.
So I think you address that, but, you know.
So I
that's
put a
something you
year-
see stuff.
So I put a year from the application that was approved.
Okay.
So if the application gets approved, then they have a year to complete the project. If they don't, they would have to resubmit if there were funds left.
Do they have to comply with Davis-Bacon or anything like that?
Well, from windows, they have to go through
No.
HPC and everything else.
Yeah, you'd have to go through HBC,
Everything
but,
outside.
yeah, no, Davis Bacon.
Well, that kicks the price up too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, I support
Alright.
the project either, however you look at it, so I mean, if you
So
guys
you
want
guys
to leave the
wanna
5 in.
leave the 5 in or take it out?
Leave the 5 in.
I feel like that too. We had 7 people interested in a $50,000 grant with Paul Brun, and their projects were more than 50 upstairs downtown. There's a lot of rehab that has to happen to make
Oh, yeah,
it
definitely.
livable, so I think 5 is good. The 5 there, I think those are the businesses that might apply first. I don't know what's outside the district as much.
Okay, so leave it as is.
I think so too.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, entertain a motion to recommend approval to the city council at their council meeting. No motion?
Also move.
Got one motion? We have a second? I'll second. Go ahead.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion on this at all? All right, all in favor? Aye. Both same sign?
Aye.
So we have 2 ayes. and 3.
Right.
Okay, so it passes 3-2.
Craig, can you clarify? If we kept in the 5,000,
Just
just,
keeping in the 5.
yeah,
Yeah, for the historical.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Got it. Thank you.
You betcha. 5th grant boutique revolving loan fund. This would be kind of a fun deal. That's
So,
for 20. Go ahead, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jason.
yep, so
Go ahead.
they are asking for 25K and they would like to build a coffee shop in their new location. That money would go towards equipment like espresso machines, basically equipment. I think it's exciting. They're asking for a 10-year, 5%, 10-year terms at 5%. If you remember, we changed our guidelines to add a percentage for the revolving loan not too long ago. We went 3% below prime with a floor of 5%. So they're asking for a 10-year term at 5%, 25K, coffee shop. The loan committee reviewed the items and approved them.
Any questions?
What are we
Discussion?
taking as collateral?
Okay, hold on. That would be the equipment. You can
Okay.
take any,
Okay, just for Dusty and or Tyler, I think that involves a UCC filing.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So if somebody could coach us through that process. I think typically staff, so. Usually you have to photograph the equipment and send that into somewhere, so,
the state Department of
Okay.
Revenue. I think.
okay. Did we ask them about a second on the building, or did we just determine that the equipment was the best collateral available?
I think we just determined that it was the best collateral available.
It doesn't equipment depreciate compared to a building, so how's that good collateral if it's depreciating?
Right. I mean, we could always ask for different collateral.
We were second on the building. I mean, we'd be deep in line.
Remember,
That's
it's
true. Be
No.
first on
almost
the
gap
equipment.
First on the
financing, so
equipment.
Yeah.
What?
it's gap financing. So, right, you're taking a risk either way. If you give them a loan, you're not going to get first dibs on anything really if they default,
Except we had a UCC on equipment.
unless you have a UCCM file.
Okay, I think the equipment sounds good. And I don't. Yeah, it's probably not worth digging into, but maybe at some point we could, if someone wants to dig into it, we can figure out some guidance of when we wanna be. Maybe, Corey, do you know, is equipment versus building, but you're second or third, is there anything that's more secure?
I mean, usually property. Yeah, it would just come down to, what that loan to value number is. So that would be kind of, but that's, appraisal and stuff like that come into play to determine that, or.
And so they're gonna do a 5th grant boutique, that's the plan,
Yeah, with a coffee shop.
with the coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We need a copy, John.
UCCs are common.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, used to do.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Mhm.
we need a motion to approve the revolving loan fund application.
I'll make a motion.
Got a first, got a second?
I'll second.
First and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Both same sign. Thank you.
Thank you. I will let them know.
What's I mean, I know they're working on the building as we speak. What, any idea when they're gonna start up or anything, or?
Well, I toured it on Tuesday. The downstairs pretty much
It's done, they started moving everything in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Product, yeah.
the upstairs is on the top of the building to the left as you look, because it's a total disaster upstairs. You get scared going into that place. I mean, the hall one is good above the right side. But you go into the other one, it's like 6, 8 rooms, little kitchen, and they're the cracks and
The old boarding.
leaks, and I mean, it's terrible. I don't know, they're just gonna block it off like
Yeah.
that, so. Otherwise, it looks real cute. They did it real simple, painted and did a ceiling makeover and it looks bright, and fresh and new, so, but then they moved everything in to start showing, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Next item is feedback on the livability section. Anybody get a chance to look at this stuff at Lanesboro and
Yeah, I looked at it. Looks good.
Did
The
anybody else?
Preston one was impressive.
yeah, I thought they were kind of cool. So this is you, Dusty?
I think it's a combination between Kathy and I working on the contents and then Vision Group out of Winona actually creating the page. And then management of the page. Caroline, who would manage the page? Would that be me or would Lisa get access to that? I don't know if that's been determined.
We all can access stuff, but,
Okay.
yeah, so I think Kathy identified there may be funds left from a grant. And then Mayor Duran identified that she might have funds available.
If we need them.
If we need them.
Last time in so
But
long.
right now, Vision Design had come in. Like, it'll be $300 to do this for you. What I think will be time consuming is probably the content. But Kathy was willing to work on the housing, again, with a longer time frame, and Mayor Duran offered to help with education and childcare. And I think Dusty could take a look at employment and business. But yeah, some of these other ones like recreation and things, it's probably a matter of sitting down and writing that. And I did ask Vision Design to assist with copy editing as well. So yeah, I think right now we definitely have funding available through existing grants to do this. I think we wanted feedback because this wasn't on any of the original, this was in a goal of Kathy's, but we hadn't moved it forward. I think this cost quite a bit more money. But once again, I think we were just like, well, what could we do with the resources at hand? And just talking about staff capacity, I know Dusty does have a number of things she's working on, so I think she could tackle some of this as she's able, and we need a living document, and I didn't get a sense from Kathy how quickly she could get it done. But I think if we were using our existing grants, we could probably set a goal of maybe even January 1st of next year of getting the content ready and sending that off to Vision Design. So.
So you're talking on like a website, or are you gonna do one of these?
Another website or something on
One
the
of these.
city
It
website?
would be on the city's website.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, this
Okay.
isn't,
Okay.
You're gonna do one of
That's
the
not
videos, like the
connecting.
video on?
we could not do a video, we don't have funding for that, so it would more be just. The other thing we'd ask the Vision Design is to help us with photographs or taking new photographs if we didn't have any.
So we have Vision Design at Main Street, and it's $360 a year flat out. Plus, anytime you touch it, add a photo, change some wording, another $25.
But I have them updated. If you had staff in-house do it, that's fine, but anytime they touch it, it's 25
Yeah,
for update.
Yeah.
So we spend about 100 a year.
The city does it. The city does it. We don't ask Vision Design to do it. Lisa does it.
But for
we
this
said
initial
photo
part, they would be touching it, but they, the staff, us, I think would have to try to develop the content in it, so,
yeah,
yeah.
you have to do that.
Yeah, we developed our content, but then it's about 1,200 a year to maintain.
Yeah, you don't think so, but it is, because dates change, things like that. Every time you touch it, it's $25.
Unless we do.
Right, and just the programs you add and the information you put out there, so.
Yeah, that's
So
like another,
there's two ways for you to manage your own page. You can actually learn how to do it yourself,
Yeah.
or you can ask them to do it for a modest fee.
Yeah.
Right now, Lisa does the changes to our website, so she doesn't.
So she can do all that, yeah.
and I do the
Yeah,
changes, Tyler does. The thing that's been challenging is I think an eye should be given to, is this gonna quickly go out of date? Because it is probably then something that we need a CETA person or myself to wanna make it look fresh. But many of the things I think, you know,
A lot of that stuff
Yeah.
is pretty static.
yeah,
I think once the page is built, it would be easy to manage. I do website work for Lewiston and Goodview and Winona County. And simple stuff, it's not a whole page creation, but if we need something changed, I can figure it out. Or updated.
yeah, I think the work will be initially. Putting it together, but if we say you like Preston's or Lanesboro's. I think we could use that as kind of the. Model and then just use that same sort of format and categories and. So this is housing, education and childcare, employment and business, healthcare, recreation. We are not known as a veteran-friendly community, but we are a bird-friendly community. I'd probably leave that one out
We
unless,
are a Purple Heart City.
oh, we are.
We have the BFW, American.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that telecommuter friendly. We have not received that designation to my knowledge.
Only Preston, according to the state. They're the only one.
We can make.
And then just cross links to other things, so.
I think it's a great idea. I could, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would encourage people to think about moving here.
Okay.
It's like an online welcome aboard package. That's the way I look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. Dusty, do you mind also adding this then to your goals as well, so we can kind of just track progress on it and
Yep,
keep checking in?
sure.
Okay, so we're good with that, right?
And then, is there any feedback from Kathy on her planning document? I think from staff perspective, or kind of some feedback we shared, it's definitely a lot to digest, but a lot has been completed, so I think it's kind of just noting all that has been done, I guess, on that. Any comments on this document? Okay.
To be honest with you, I didn't open it.
I was just wondering, is this a 2025 moving forward document too? I didn't get to the end. Is it, just for 2024 now, or is it projects for 2025 also?
We could get updated at the end of the year.
Okay,
We can ask her. Okay. Right. I think that's all on that one.
All right, number 7, provide feedback to staff on potential new lot creation near Cannon Park.
Oh, shoot, did I forget to attach that? Oh, no.
We have the survey of the old lots. I mean, this.
Okay. Let me look through my email and find it, but basically, okay. So. Sorry, no, that's the other one. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys, gotta look up Cannon Park. I guess the short of it is, there's actually some promise with these lots to create at least one single family lot, was the good news. And so here we go. So this is Hiawatha. And this is the alley that's just grass, and down here is Cannon Park. So what is promising, I think, is the lot right here, because you could build off Milligan theoretically, and, you know, have your driveway there and go that way. And then we could, if we vacated the alley, you know, half goes one way and half would go to that property. But what Brian wanted feedback on before he spent time giving us a lot that we could sell was feedback on if it makes sense to combine this entire lot, because these are smaller
Yeah,
lots,
They look
you know?
50 footers, yeah.
It's
How many-
just kind of weird, yeah, that's the sidewalk right there.
How many
So
square feet would be the combined lot?
I didn't, he wanted feedback on it, so I'm sure that he might know that, so that's a question, and I forgot to really ask him kind of, what do you think makes sense?
You're talking about one lot in there?
Yes.
Yeah, do we do one lot?
Combining those.
I don't know, again,
Well, what
I
are we gonna do with them if we just do the one lot?
sell it
So
for,
Sell three,
sell one lot for new construction,
and then what are they gonna do with the other?
and
No, you just sell it as one.
One big
yeah,
lot.
one big
Otherwise,
lot. That's my point. You have to have two for sure.
I
because
can't
it's not
see
enough
any
square
way
foot.
that you could do more than one lot unless you make this an alley and you could go in that way, but you have a sidewalk in front of your
But that
house.
doesn't give
so,
you enough square footage to build
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
We just have to sell it as one.
One-
Yeah, just
Yeah, right.
combine it,
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
combine it and sell.
okay,
in your backyard, and
Yeah.
I think that's great, let's do it.
I do too,
um,
as long as utilities are on Milligan, and I think they are,
yeah.
got homes all along in there.
Yeah, and then the other question that I was curious about and talked to Tony about is, I was just referencing the Cannon Park plan and our parks, master parks plan. And it talks about potentially moving the cannon to another location and basically decommissioning this as a park for the city of Wabashan, reducing on cost to mow it and keep it public. And they would have access from 8th Street. But there is a deed restriction on it from 1974, and I think at one point Mike Flaherty, and Tony remembers this, shared that park deed restrictions can potentially go away after a certain amount of years. But when we've talked about moving the cannon, I think at times we've gotten some negative feedback. I don't know. I'm thinking of Tyler.
Where would you move it?
We thought a Veterans Park or,
Well, they just remodeled that. whole
Yeah,
thing.
or I think another city park that
No,
we
but
have in
they
our
just
plan
done-
to keep as a park
Whole
long
thing.
term.
Put it on that
Park
triangle.
in that neighborhood, there's a lot of green space in that
Vacated that
neighborhood,
road.
so that's been a park for
More visible.
the kids, the neighborhood.
I've never seen a child playing that.
Yeah.
It was when our kids were growing up.
College pool park.
Activate
I
that
see.
fucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, like pool parks right here, and then the cannon is just like 2 blocks back.
Right, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying now, that's developing space.
I think what people have a tie to is the cannon itself, and I don't know if moving it is cost prohibitive.
Well, by the time you build the monument that it has to sit on, and I think you'd spend more money than you get for the lot, I mean.
Yeah.
But what about the cost to mow the lawn every year for the next 50 years? And the cost to not
Okay.
collect taxes on the
Then you just
parcel
make
for
a
the next
platform and
50
move it
years?
over there, and that's.
Got some sheep.
What?
Get some sheep and we don't have to mow it.
Anyway, put a popcorn park. Corner right in there. Well,
I
okay,
think
so,
it's worth combining this one,
Yeah,
get
that's-
that
that's gonna be
hopefully
done
for
too,
sale. And I think it's worth seeing if we can figure out, is it feasible to move the cannon? I
Yeah.
think,
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know, somehow it got there in the first place, so, but.
It's got wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, they still turn, I don't.
Okay.
WD forty.
There's a written.
Yeah, a lot of WD-40.
Yep,
Yeah.
I have a copy of that, I have a copy of it right here,
Yeah.
So where is the cannon, was that given to us by someone?
It's probably a decommission, that's, you gotta,
mhm,
you apply for a decommissioned whatever, tank, helicopter.
okay. The cannon was set up in Schmidt's Memorial Park until the fall of 1934. When Mrs. Schmidt and Williams H. Witt, then members of the park board, did not want it in the park anymore. And without such notice of such to the Legion, they proceeded to sell it to a salvage company. It was loaded on the semi-trailer. And then I guess they stopped and unloaded it and said it was government property, and then it was pulled down to the riverbank at the north end of Washington Street, where it was there for several years.
So we could move it along.
Why don't we bring it back to Schmidt Park, because that's where we celebrate Memorial Day, and the veterans are there, and it's.
Yeah.
Mrs. Schmidt's on, she won't care.
Yeah, Schmidt's gone, you know, there's no owners there, we have a.
At the time, the cement cost was $82, and then it was sandblasted at a cost of $30.
That's
So this
maybe
is
double.
great that we have this history on it.
I do the research on where it was placed at Schmidt to have it go back home. She's the one who did the fountains too, they let the children drink.
There's a
And we
cement
brought
platform there
fountain
that the
to her.
band
Let's
used to
bring her
run high
cannon
school,
home.
played on,
She's
in
not
the back there, set it right on that, no cost. Cost of moving it.
Okay, we're good, right?
All right, looking.
I got guidance. I know what to do, so I will. I think we should. Keep you posted. Okay,
Okay, so now we gotta talk about.
Okay,
Authorized city administrator to sign phase 2 environmental,
oh, yeah.
Second Street apartments.
so. The question that I had was. So you went with the higher bid
Mm-hmm,
and. Because they're familiar with Mindy
mm-hmm,
and. I kinda think that Chosen Valley Testing could probably do that too, but it's a 48% increase. So it's $7,000 if you look at the total cost, not a whole lot. But it kind of sets up. You have a really good reason. The Mindy thing, I don't think it's a really good reason.
so yeah, just to. Bring people up to speed, we had a short time to turn around this phase 2 study. And so Dee said, we basically turned this around in a week or 2 weeks or something. They said, go with getting a quote from a company that knows our grants. And I know for this kind of work, we can go for the higher bid. And so they gave me a quote for 16,300. And then we did also obtain a quote from Chosen Valley Testing, and theirs was for, just under $15,000. So I wasn't calculating a huge difference. Craig, the difference is that there's this response action plan development. If they find something, they have to develop a plan. For 3,500, I did not get that quoted from Chosen Valley, it was just the plan, so I calculated maybe just like a $1,000 difference, so that told me, that was about right for it, and then. Terracon had helped us again get the timeline going and just respond really, really quickly. So I guess maybe it's a bit of loyalty, but certainly we don't have to, but. So Craig, theirs was 16,300. And then the response action plan cost 3,500. So I was gonna go get the full amount. approved today. But it for sure will be 16,300, and then I'll come back to this group if they find anything on site and we can lower that amount. You know,
And we'd have to, if they find something, we'll have to do that anyway.
yeah.
So I have to pay that.
Type of thing.
So I'm just saying it's. You can, for it's a professional service, so yeah, you can go with that, but you need to have justification, so. In order for us to not get into hot water every time we go out for professional services
Mhm.
and have people complaining. I just think you should have a good.
Does it also make sense that they've done the phase 1 and the lead and asbestos, but I mean, that didn't come out with anything in their quote, but they're just familiar with the site. You know, they were our chosen group for the phase 1, so should we include that in the minutes?
If you can, you wanna talk to. Them and talk to Chosen Valley to see if Chosen Valley was gonna include that stuff too. Or figure out, as long as it's defensible, that's all I'm saying, is. At the first glance to me, it didn't look like you had a really good case. And you're not violating the law, it's a professional service, so you can choose whoever you want, but. It could set a precedent on other professional contracts. That's all I'm saying.
Any other comments with respect to that? I thought it made sense to continue to work with Terracon since they've already done the other studies, and they're recommended that they've done the Mindy work. So that's kind of where I was at with it. It made sense. Any further discussion? Hearing if there is no other, would your motion to approve or? Anybody?
I'll make it.
Got a motion? Got a second?
Second.
And first and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next. City Administrator, Finance Director report.
Okay. So we got that certified survey map done, and then for Lower Main Street, we're investigating some things with a real estate attorney on that, so we're just not gonna comment on it yet. I'm gonna wait till I have more information and bring that back. We have gotten the go-ahead from the Army Corps to do another winter haul to just help the project continue at 2024 tipping rates. For ease, I just left all the numbers the same. And I think the latest with that project is we have to figure out, do we need to charge new Davis-Bacon rates or the old ones apply? So I just sent an email on that, and then we're waiting for the official letter from the Army Corps. And then the Coners have estimated it would be a 10 to 15 week process. So during that process, we have Tony Johnson doing weekly visits and communicating that to the Army Corps. Lisa and myself have done the Davis-Bacon compliance, and particularly Lisa. And so I think we're good. And then we talked about the Highway 60 funding. And then something that we're gonna be having some tough budget discussions coming up. So I feel that it makes sense to charge a higher percentage of our time back to the port in 2025. But I haven't discussed that with the council. But I certainly spend a lot of time working on Port Authority things and just keeping it moving forward. In my brain, what benefits the port benefits the city of Wabasha. But we're always looking for ways to lower the levy. I think Craig had said, could you track all your time? And I had to do that on the CDBG grant, and I'm not a consultant, and I'd rather just take a straight percentage. So I feel like I'm spending about 20% of my time, if not more, And Tyler's 10, so we wanted to see if we can increase our rates next year. But I haven't gotten feedback on council yet, so I think I'll let them weigh in on it and, take it back to this group, so. But just kind of some of the things I'll be working on in 2025, it's gonna be a lot. The barge terminal project management. So even though Bolton and Make is our engineer, I can actually, behind the scenes, kind of continue to keep it moving forward, because it's. Brian has a lot of projects, and so does Bolton and Make. So,
Yeah,
and
just
there's,
to keep moving forward.
yeah, and there's
Dragging
certain
your feet.
aspects of this that it doesn't make sense to use a Bolton and Make billing rate on something that I can do, like. I don't know, like this week, we're gonna show project readiness for the state, MnDOT department, and I'm just coordinating those pieces. So I'm like, Brian, send me this, Christy, send me this. We got the resolution, so I'm putting things together, and then you guys save a lot of money on not asking, a professional engineer, or one of Bolton and Make's colleagues to do coordination work. And that same is, I just noticed we have deadlines coming up with MARAD. We've got to theoretically get the environmental assessment done by the end of the year, and I think that was a deadline that we kind of weren't paying attention to, and then we learned at our meeting, we gotta get MnDOT stuff ready to go by the end of the year, and so.
So one thing
Yeah.
I'm confused on is,
Yeah.
so. Are you talking about more money?
No,
Or are you
Not
just
more
talking about-
kidding, just more transferred over to the
Okay.
general fund, I don't need more
I
money.
wasn't
No.
clear.
so what this would essentially do is offset that labor expense to the general fund. And we would take, as an entity, we would pay more of their salaries.
Right, like we
We
pay,
take their time,
we pay Tyler's salary, part of it,
Yeah.
$12.50 a week, whatever it is.
yeah.
Oh,
And,
we'll have income from now on.
yeah, and this, and I don't know about you guys, but I talked to Caroline a lot about, what's going on, and I use her for time quite a bit, so, and it's Port Authority stuff. I think it makes sense, and we are in a position to actually be able to consider doing this. And then I think as a gesture to the general fund and if possible, how we're gonna manage that levy, I think this is a good way to look at that. So,
And I don't want it to detract from the work that CETA is doing, but there's just certain things that, we've got Dusty doing business support, Kathy looking at housing, and then I just have stayed on the barge terminal on the Highway 60, because it's such a critical thing, and it's almost, it needs somebody that's on it every single day,
So
so,
what's our levy now, 61,000, is it?
yes.
something to
Yeah.
that effect, yeah.
Okay, so then the extra comes out of the 61, plus Tyler's, plus whatever,
Mhm.
anything else.
What do we bring in
Do we
our
get any
last?
money back from anything? Are we getting any cut?
Well, we get our money from this winter haul too.
Yeah, and that's.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
what do we give
another
them for
100,000
first
a year, so that's a
Okay.
couple 100,000, more than a couple 100,000.
It'd be 300,000 again.
The winter haul coming up for next.
It's going to the port.
Right,
That's our money, yeah.
and the money that we do get from the island unload, I mean, we gotta decide what we're gonna, that's constant income for 10 years. And I think
I
we should
did-
offset the.
I
the
did
budget
explore
every
with
year or
Brian,
something.
should we try to get MARAD to pay for some of all the time that it takes for the grants, but. He thought if you guys have our terminal income, it would be easier not to involve the federal government in a reimbursement and just reimburse my time on it. And his engineering time will definitely be billable to a project and all,
That makes more
all be
sense.
reimbursed, but.
That's fine.
It's something we can back off of in the future, because if let's say we wanna get a CETA 5 days a week. I back away or we do it, I think it doesn't have to be permanent. But. And then I think from the council perspective, it's an acknowledgement of that this is a core part of my work. But I think they are very aware of that, so, I don't know. So, yeah, any comments, Mayor?
Well,
Yeah.
we're aware of it, but we
Yeah.
didn't intend for it.
Right.
I remember John.
We wrote
saying,
it out,
We're
yeah.
not hiring you to be both, because you asked that, are you asking me to be the economic development director and the city administrator? And we said no, but with Caroline's skill set, her ability to cross, I guess, cross work in her administrative role makes this stuff happen.
Yep.
And she had that skill set and she's been willing to provide leadership and it's, the yield is significant. And we wouldn't just, these things are simply wouldn't be moving forward without her, so. But we haven't regrouped and said, oh, okay, now we do want you to do that, and this is how it should be funded.
So I think we can have that conversation with council during the budget workshop as we talk about this. And maybe acknowledge that probably, does this continue to make sense? Or does the port charge somebody else with it? I enjoy doing it and I think we make a good team, but,
There's a lot of
Yeah.
agency in it, there's
yeah.
institutional knowledge is rich.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody else. gets
we're at a
it.
kind of an inflection point. We can't make those big changes and
Right.
that stuff at this point.
I appreciate Caroline and Tyler's leadership. I'll say that.
There you go. So do we have a bit of a consensus that should be a conversation?
Yeah,
held?
of course.
And I do think we should continue to consider 2 days a week for a CETA person in the future. But I will get those quotes and I think we can have that discussion once we can project income for next year
Right.
and we'll include this and say, okay, what's left over and, so.
We haven't heard yet about the grant application for the Minnesota housing.
Yeah,
Yes, the update has been, they got so many applications, they pushed back notification till end of September.
That's just not a good sign,
well, it's not a good sign in both perspectives, too.
right?
No, I don't think it's a good sign, but I think that I did talk with Andy and said, I'm aware of other grants that will be coming online this fall through Minnesota Housing. We put so much into it, we're considering we want to see it progress, maybe it just doesn't happen next year. And they said they had a discussion and they would be, if we didn't get it, be interested in continue to find a path forward with us, so.
Okay.
I think it won't be maybe as easy or as fast, but I think it's not that. What we would communicate is we didn't get it, but that doesn't mean the project's dead, so.
Delayed.
Be late.
And let me just add at this juncture, Caroline and I attended the summer Minnesota
Yes.
Port Association meeting yesterday, yeah, Monday. And I think what we heard was we're in an odd position, Wabasha is versus the others. We are financially, we've got enough funds kind of ready to start our build. Others are waiting for millions and millions of dollars to try to do some repairs and that kind of thing. But the strategies of like how we submit for that bonding request, do we submit bonding request and general fund, try to do a different multiple approaches to that. Which I thought was a good angle. They're, as a group, they're terribly interested in what we're doing. They wanna somehow help us, I think they think that having us online helps to send the message that we're integral in that transportation product. And so there's the need for us to be a part of this whole system, so I thought that was pretty good. I think it continues to add value to us to be a part of that group. Yeah, I think we're heard,
Yeah.
so that's good.
It was good, and they were really helpful as we went out and selected consultants, and I think as we work to construct the barge terminal, it'll be helpful to I'm already using them as a resource, so
Yeah,
Good.
they're so, it's almost like overwhelming. So, oh yeah, this, you know, all these
very,
different
very
people.
welcoming to us as
Yeah.
well, which is nice.
So
Okay,
that's all I got for that. Next and last, Dusty, your coordinator report. Anything on
Sure.
there?
Myself, I had another meeting, so I have to go.
Oh, go.
What's that? Is it my turn?
It's your
Yes.
turn.
Okay, so I highlighted a few things. A couple meetings ago, we resurrected some possible old goals. And so I'll just go through the highlight of a few things. Let me pull mine up. So we'll go down to the revolving loan fund program. I have 2 letters of support. Got one in last week, one in this week for the renewal. I need 3 more. As you already know, Fifth Grant Boutique applied. They were approved tonight. Wabasha County Fair has applied. Right now, the loan committee is reviewing. Robin is currently out of country. She gets back next week. I will tell you that they don't meet the guidelines. We'll have a discussion about the guidelines and their application next week and have something for you possibly in September. Right now, business consulting, I'm trying to consolidate a list of commercial industrial buildings, vacant, occupied, maybe that are going to go up for sale or lease soon. That way, when people want to expand their businesses in Wabasha, I have something, the city has something, the port has something ready with a lot of information for them and contact information. We'll go down to the possible municipal campground, the highlighted area. Been talking to Caroline and Wendy and Christy from Bolton and Mink. Public Work feels they're somewhat at a capacity to manage a project, recommending to move forward for remote sites because it's in the flood zone. Planning and Zoning Department is okay with the flood zone regulations, but the cost may be too much. There's a private investor interested in that property. I don't recall who that is.
Oh, I think that's a different one.
Okay.
That is, down by the marina. There's a private investor trying to move forward a campground over there. So I was asked, or we were asked to investigate, could any of these grants be used by that person with the city as the applicant? And I did not look into that. Dusty, that would be something if you could help me with. We were trying to figure out if we were the applicant, but it benefited a private party, is that eligible for that campground down by the marina?
I thought the Markwood Park had a
Stipulation,
covenant on it.
yeah, that they can't be a campground, it's just
That is for where the dog park is,
No,
but
across the street.
we pulled data, Christy did, and it looked good for Markwood Park.
To be a campground?
It had to be used for recreational purposes.
Oh.
So then I think we got sort of discussing, well, would anyone argue with it? Something about park purposes or recreational purposes, and how would you interpret that language? And would someone come back at us saying, well, the city campground is no longer a park purpose? So I think where we landed was a discussion with Mike Flaherty to read the deed restriction. I think it's probably park purposes. And I was like, well, if the city owns it and it's a public campground, that's park for me, but yeah, so, but I think right now,
they're
just
talking about trailers coming in there and stuff,
RVs and,
yeah,
yeah. So
Seasonal sites.
seasonal, yeah.
yeah, I think the challenge is we just don't have money to plan it. And then is there capacity to manage it once we had it? I thought that there was some cost efficiencies. There's some cost efficiencies because we already have a campground, but I think this is just categorized. I realize like Dusty can do a lot of research, but at the end of the day, it'll be cost to design it and then Public Works to run it. And it just, with everything that we had on, I didn't want her to make progress and then have us be like, hey, we don't have capacity for this. So I still love the goal, but yeah, we got like, well, we'll have to ask Mag Flaherty if this, and so I think it's something to keep there as another income generator, but I think we were on a webinar with communities that have done it. And I think what stopped me short is not every campground makes money. I was like, oh no, the city is not gonna want, like, they don't see this as something for taxpayers to pay. So if this thing can't make money, we don't wanna do it. So then I'm like, well, we're gonna have to write a business plan for it. So I think that's my feedback to Dusty. It's like, we're not ready to take on something that might not make us money. And we're not ready to do a business plan for ourselves, because I think we saw it as an income generator because our other campground makes us so much money and we already have capacity and, but I'd have to do some more research with staff, like, hey, are we, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does it make a difference that it's in the flood zone? I mean, it's.
we need fill. Yeah, we need fill.
So there's a
Our campground is already in the flood zone. and-
No, I know, but you.
Yeah,
You move all the campers
Yeah.
across the street somewhere else. So now you would move an entire park of campers when it flooded, like, just across the street, all of those campers had to be moved, so it's a lot. If you wanna put in another 100. That's a lot of moving.
And I don't think it's out of turn, but I know Blaine Marcoux and his family have been somewhat protective of
Yeah,
that.
I don't think that was.
And I respect that. We
Yeah,
need
that's
to
not
really
good.
address that
Yeah,
in this process, so.
thank you.
Mhm.
Remote sites might be kind of neat though. Tents, for a weekend. I don't know.
We don't need a tent city.
Okay, I get that.
All right,
We have so many private campgrounds around us that are hundreds of places. Are they all filled? I don't know.
most of them are filled.
Even Nelson? I
I don't
mean,
know about Nelson. That's a good.
he has 125 sites and there's 300 at the Pioneer Campground.
Yeah,
So, I mean, is there room for another 100? I don't know.
I don't know.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing, is all that.
Yeah. And then Elaine has like 24 or 48, I don't remember.
All right,
Going to the sign.
sign.
Yeah, so I did got two different quotes. I went to Shad Tracy. I guess he did some signage on the new athletic field. Is that correct? Did some signage over
Yeah.
there? Okay, so I just asked for some quotes. One was utilizing the structure that you have now. One was removal of the old structure, bringing in a brand new structure. I mean, the new structure is still going to cost you $70K plus. Utilizing the old structure with two different design that he made, you're looking at 40 to 50 grand. But I think it's been determined that I think the mayor and other folks possibly on the port would like to investigate like a community driven design and possibly go after grant money before going forth with this project. Is that correct?
That's how I feel, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
We-
Maybe just because we're all in the same room, can I kind of clarify?
Yeah.
Thinking?
Sure.
Okay. We'll move down to Eagle Basin.
Hang on, Dusty.
Just because we've got you here with us too, Dusty, so you know where I'm coming from. This has
Oh,
been on
sorry.
my mind for a long time because frankly, when we moved to Wabasha, I was like, wow, everybody's got really nice community signage and then you get here and ours needs investment. That's my honest opinion. And then I was on the HPC and we started thinking, well, where do grants have a role in making sure people do come off the highway to see the historic assets and the river and all that kind of stuff? Because you could bypass Wabasha if you didn't know it was here. So we were kind of keen to looking at some of the grants that were granting that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that the Smith Small Town Grant at some point funded either the sign itself, but my recollection is they funded the planning and the community engagement around the development of a large community sign. And I think that's appealing. I've had lots of people over the years, before I was the mayor, even certainly as the mayor, that have said, I'd like to be a part of that. When we get a new sign, I'd like to be a part of that. And I think of it not as a city of Wabasha sign. I think that would be a huge miss. It's really a community sign. It really speaks to the broader, the much bigger than our city limits kind of experience that you have when you come here. So I have looked, and because it was before I was the mayor, it might have been my health partner's email. I know that I put some stuff away about community engagement, so this would usually come in the form of technical assistance, so it'd be somebody who understands community engaged design, understands how to facilitate, like Bolton and Mank and LHB have done over the years. and they're
LHB did that,
big,
yeah.
where people's investment, if you don't ask for those investment, they will be opposed to whatever you do. And I think an off the shelf Shad Tracy sign, as professional as they are, and we use them professionally, would be a big miss. I think a lot of people are like, oh, thanks for picking that out of the catalog. So that would be my desire. I don't know if the city, because this is where we sit, and I know Mary's interested in it, and whether it's a city thing that we initiate, certainly the city can always apply for grants. But I think it would be weird to not involve this, Chamber Visitors Bureau, because of their, obvious investment in how people feel when they get here. And when they leave, it was pointed out by John Rivers the other day that Plainview has replaced their sign. He said, oh, so that they've done something different than have a good day as you leave Plainview, it's like have fun at your work in Rochester. So I think it would mean something to our community to be engaged in this. I've said this a few times. I think people who live in Wabasha expect to be asked to be engaged in this kind of stuff. There's been a history of it, and I think that's good. It leads to healthy community, and I think it leads to much better design, frankly. So I'm gonna keep looking for those. There is another assessment process that Main Street leads, and I know there's design thinking within Main Street. I don't know if they have this particular type of.
Yeah, well, the marketing and the messaging and the design, all of that, and
Yeah.
Kelly is willing to speak with us and sit down and go through that process and then find out where the funding is.
Right, so it's just
For the
cross
Main Street
wires.
community, there might be access to funding.
Yeah, exactly, right, or expertise that we don't know about.
Sure.
It was cross wires that it got to. Carolyn and I often have rapid fire conversations, and we went from talking about grants to talking about port work, and it's got like transferred. I was probably still blathering when she was like, can we talk about port? So that's what ended up with you guys, but I just don't want us to make a quick decision. And I'm glad there wasn't any support, frankly, from council to pay for something that's expensive, because I don't think we've done our homework, so.
No.
Yeah, it's not the sign that would be on there.
But it's on the radar, and I think
Yeah.
one of the things that came out, but first of all, it's shocking, I have no idea it costs that kind of money.
Right,
But two, where should it go?
yeah,
And if we're successful with Highway 60 reroute, is that our new main entrance?
and that's the reason it's become like drawn up in my mind a couple times, is because they, through the Greater Minnesota Futures process, they reminded us of that several times. You're gonna have 2 new places to welcome people into your community, so think
Yep.
about how you do that, and it should relate to the materiality of our streetscape, I think. There's been a lot of thoughtful deliberation about that, so.
And then we sit on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
You're on Fort Landing, you don't know that. We sit on a river.
Right.
Downtown is like half a block
Yeah,
off the river. So we just drove through, communities of Dubuque, up and down the river road. Even Tiny Basketball has a beautiful sign. I stopped, pulled over to the cornfields and looked at their landscaping around a structure that had a tagline and pictures, and it was like, even if it's agriculture, hunting, fishing, biking, whatever it is, all that was sign just told me what they do in this town. And then we kept going, but I'm like, oh my God, basketball, I mean, who even knows about it,
Yeah,
right? Tiny communities, but they did an amazing job with their sign, and they had marketing, messaging, decor in limestone bluffy kind of feel, and it was not expensive, it was smaller, but it was, you looked twice at it.
Mhm.
And I know you noticed that,
Yeah.
and you bought it down too.
yeah. I see
So-
wonderful small signs that are very thoughtful, and I see really bad big ones, and I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to see
think-
that has a really bad.
I think the Winona one, because I've started noticing that one, is more in the category of, Winona, and it's 90s right now, so yeah.
Yeah,
But then there's Steamboat, man, you don't miss out that there's a river downtown Winona because of this
This,
Steamboat.
Steamboat.
Oh, I don't know, but the one that I see, I think is bland and
It's like
yes,
Ephes,
ours is
Quiche.
from the nineties, yeah, ours is from the nineties.
Yeah.
All right,
That lattice.
so
all right,
more to follow.
Or about,
okay.
Okay, keep going, Dusty, we're on to Eagle Basin.
All right, so project underway, but I believe the grant was submitted utilizing the Taylor Rural and Small Town grants from Smith for a playground out in that community. Correct?
I didn't do Taylor yet or even write it, but we're gonna copy from the other one, so yeah.
Okay.
That's the, yeah.
The Small Town one was submitted, correct?
Yeah.
10K.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the U of M tourism assessment, I looked into that as well. That's one of your old goals. But after talking with Mary, Courtney, myself, and Caroline, not recommending to move forward. Chamber and Main Street are active in this endeavor. Is that correct, Mary? Is that still correct?
Yeah, Courtney felt Shaver had a handle on tourism and we're doing, you know, we're looking at that downtown assessment. That's not
Yep.
tourism.
Okay, so I just thought I'd put that on there, looked into it, did a little bit of research. The grant opportunities I have highlighted, those are already being submitted for Eagle Basin. And so
Very good.
that would be it for me.
That's huge. Thank you.
Yep.
Next meeting is not Thursday, the 17th, it is Tuesday, 17th. And I think that's it for the night, right? Did we miss anything? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn? Oh, got the boss.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
First and second, yes?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Darcy.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.